Hello there. Lovely night, isn't it? And a lovely fire, don't you think? Oh, yes. It is a perfect night for a story. Well, maybe it used to be. People don't do that anymore? Not really. We have like a dozen streaming services you could pull up on your phone right now. Choose your poison. What use are fairy tales, folk tales anymore? That's for children, or at least the ones who aren't being babysat by an iPad. Good point. Can't blame them. It would be nice if the country had paid parental leave too. What I'm trying to say is, I don't know, what could a fully grown adult possibly need from fireside folk tales when you have prestige television at your fingertips? All right. You're persistent. And, well, this place is looking pretty grim. Maybe a good fairy tale can spice things up. Well, I'm no trained folklorist. And listen, there are all sorts of stories we know already. Thanks, Disney. Maybe something new? Wait a moment. I got it. Nope. Well, nah, that's way too slapstick. How about... close? No. Yes! Oh, this? It's a tarot deck. A simple one, just enough for me to get the juices flowing. It can also tap into the collective unconscious, pick up themes that the world needs to hear. All the good old folk tales said something about the culture it was birthed in. A skeptic, eh? Well, just think of it as a creative exercise. Random themes that we can use to build our very own Mad Libs of a folktale. What do you think? All right, you're the one who wanted a story by the fire, okay? A little trust, a little fairy dust. Suspend your disbelief. All right, here we go. First card will be our intrepid protagonist. 3 of Wands. Progress, expansion, a struggle towards a goal. Well, that seems promising, if standard fare for a young hero. But see, here the subject is portrayed by a woman in the card, looking out to the hills. Is there something there? A citadel, maybe. Let's go to the next card. The nature of the conflict would be judgment. A lesson to be learned and judged, perhaps a competition or an assessment. Now, all good stories require some kind of sacrifice. Growth and change, right? That's what makes it interesting. The stakes. Aha! Not to be sanctimonious, but all good folk tales have some interesting lessons in them. Queen of Cups reversed. Well, normally, Queen of Cups is the quintessential motherly or wifely character, empathetic and nurturing, and reverse, well, it can be a warning about being too sucked into other people's emotional worlds and not caring for yourself. I think I know what my story tonight is going to be. Oh, don't look at me like that. It'll be fun. Promise. And if not every aspect of this story is worth listening to, drinks on me. So, settle in, settle down, and let me share with you a modern folktale for the world we live in. Once upon a time, a wealthy merchant lived in a country estate with 4 beautiful daughters. During one particularly difficult year, the merchant needed to travel across the sea to handle a business affair. Before she left, she gathered her daughters around her. "These damn shareholders think that I am at their disposal when the winds of change come for us all. Well, I expect all of you to behave while I am away. You may go anywhere on the estate while I'm gone, except for my office. Understood?" The daughters all agreed. Who wanted to go into some stuffy old office anyway? After all, there were many delights to be found on their estate. Kitchens filled with pastries and stables with horses, and stable hands to do with as they pleased. One day, the daughters found themselves rather sated with their usual indulgences. "Would you like another scone?" asked the first daughter. "No, I'm tired of scones. How about we play a game?" cried the second daughter. No, I am tired of games. How about we flirt with a new stable hand?" suggested the third daughter. No, I am tired of flirting. How about we go to the market?" suggested the first daughter. But the market was closed, and the daughters had no other ideas. None, except for one. Tired of her elder sisters moaning and groaning, the fourth and very youngest daughter cut in. "How about we go into Mother's office? We haven't done that yet." Immediately, the daughters were awash with combating desires, some saying yes, the others saying no, to obey their mother or to disobey in their boredom. Soon enough, they decided that one little peek couldn't possibly cause their mother too much ire, and if they all four went, then any punishment surely would be spread out. The four daughters snuck away from the servants and towards the office on the highest floor of the estate. After finding the key to the door hidden underneath the rug, the daughters entered the forbidden room. Inside was sparsely decorated, modern, sleek, with only a desk and a chair in front of a large bay window. On the desk lay a very official-looking document. The paper glowed with an eerie, unnatural light, imbued, perhaps, with some kind of magic. The first daughter gathered her courage, picked it up, and read it aloud.
"For we, the undersigned, commit to the investment of our interest in the following destinies. Upon their coming of age, the following events shall occur. The first daughter shall inherit the eastern estate and fall in love with a rich man. The second daughter shall inherit the western estate and fall in love with a smart woman. The third daughter shall inherit the southern estate and fall in love with a strong person. The fourth daughter shall marry..."
"A mouse? Are you fucking kidding me? Don't worry, sister. It must be some kind of a joke," said the first. "I wouldn't think too much about it, sister. It must be a typo," said the second. "It's completely impossible, sister, to marry a mouse," said the third. The fourth daughter was, understandably, distraught, and unfortunately she was unable to hide her unhappiness when her mother returned. After catching her youngest daughter wincing at any mention of rodents, the merchant realized what her daughters had discovered. The contract in question, however, was binding, and the merchant resolved to address the events as they arose. The first daughter eventually came of age. On that day, she was delivered to the eastern estate, and soon after fell in love with a man whose wealth was so great, his pigs ate from golden troughs. The second daughter eventually came of age. On that day, she was delivered to the western estate, and soon after fell in love with a woman who was so intelligent her every invention would become ubiquitous across the lands and seas. The third daughter eventually came of age. On that day, she was delivered to the southern estate, and soon after fell in love with a person who was so strong they could carry the bride and her entire carriage across the threshold of their new home. Finally, the fourth daughter came of age. The merchant was almost as upset about the pending problem, but was determined to face it nonetheless. Eventually, a tiny knock came to their door. There, on their doorstep, a mouse sat before the maid, who was thankfully prepared to face such a strange sight.
"I come to claim the hand of the fourth daughter,"
the mouse proclaimed. "I'm sorry, but I cannot allow it," the merchant declared. "It was ridiculous then, and it is ridiculous now. It cannot possibly be my daughter's destiny to marry a mouse." The mouse, embarrassed but graceful, left the merchant's doorstep. In his wake, however, a deluge of rodents descended upon the house. Terrified at the threat of plague and disease, the merchant summoned her youngest daughter to her office. "I wish I didn't have to ask this of you, but it is clear that this mouse has some kind of odd power. I had hoped you could avoid this destiny, my child, but it seems the contract was correct. You must marry this mouse. Only then may this curse be broken." The fourth daughter was forced to agree, and, feeling absolutely wretched about it, resigned to her fate. The mouse and the fourth daughter were married the following morning. That very same evening, just before dusk, the youngest daughter of the merchant was delivered to the mouse's home. It was a modest place, thankfully larger than necessary for a mouse. The mouse was gracious and left her to prepare for dinner. The sun dipped below the horizon, and finally the young wife made the dreaded trek to the dining room. Who are you?
"I am your husband."
You are definitely not. You are clearly very much human.
Well, that will change when the sun comes up. I'm only back in this form when the sun is down.
Why?
I cannot say. Literally, I cannot say it. Listen, I know you must feel awful about this entire affair. I understand if you do not want to eat or drink with me, or if you'd rather have absolutely nothing to do with me. This house is entirely your own. I don't need much space, to be honest. And you are free to leave any time you please.
If I am free to leave, why the plague of rats?
Well, I have no control over that either. I swear. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Just know that it is out of my hands. This horrible destiny you've been trapped in, that we've been trapped in. Honestly, if you'd rather spend your whole life away from me, or if you fall in love with another, I'd prefer you have as much freedom as possible. One of us should.
If I fall in love with another, how can we stay married?
We'll figure it out. It's not fair to you, certainly, to be forced into this position. This need only be a marriage of convenience, to avoid disaster only. I will not judge you for any other actions.
The young woman considered her husband's words. She ate the rest of her supper in silence, and the man, or mouse, cleared the table and went to bed alone. He did so every night, and in the morning he returned to being a mouse. He never pressured her to act as his wife or service him in any way. Indeed, she was free to visit her sisters and her mother, and to go to the market and live her life as if nothing had changed. as if she never married a mouse. Each night, however, she did eat supper with him, and with every passing day, she found that she was actually growing fond of the man. He was kind and funny and brave. And with every passing day, she became more and more curious about his curse. It was obvious that he could not speak of it, and she did not press. His skin raised with welts the last time she forced the issue. She cried that night, and he dried her tears, not blaming her one bit for her indiscretion. It was then that she realized she was falling in love with him. That day, she was exploring the grounds of her new home, pondering on her and her mouse husband's predicament. She came across a hut on the edge of a neighboring forest.
Hello? Oh, hello, dear child.
Who are you?
Oh, just an old geezer with a penchant for herbs. So, you must be the new wife of the mouse. What a catch you are, aren't you? Oh, it's been so long since the poor thing had another soul in his home.
Did you know him before he was a mouse?
Ah, well, not that far, but it is a sorry tale, that's for certain.
What happened to him?
Well, he's cursed, of course. And a shame it lasted so long, too. It's so simple to end.
What? Really? How? The old man in the hut rummaged through his scattered belongings, pulling out a spool of black thread.
All you need to do is tie this here thread to his foot while he sleeps. And then, poof, Mouse becomes a man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. The youngest daughter took the thread, and that night, after a long and delicious dinner, she crept into her husband's room. His broad chest rose and fell in a gentle, comforting rhythm, and she carefully pulled back the blanket from his legs. But just as she finished tying the thread, her husband awoke, and he was once again in the form of a mouse.
What have you done?
I thought it would break the spell. It was supposed to break the curse.
Oh no. I was so close.
What are you talking about?
It's not your fault. You can't have known. I'm bound now, completely. The spell would have fallen from me in 3 days, but by tying this black thread to my foot, I must leave.
Leave? Leave? No, you can't.
My darling wife, I must remain in this shape, and I must leave this place.
I'll follow you then.
You cannot follow me, not without sacrifice.
What kind of sacrifice?
There, in my closet, are 3 pairs of iron shoes and a steel staff. I cannot tell you where I am going, but I can tell you that it is so very, very far away. So far, in fact, that even if you wear out every one of those items, you will have little chance of finding me.
Then I will. I promise I'll do it. No, come back. Where are you? Where'd you... The mouse did not return her cries, however, and she was left alone in a cold and empty house. Eventually she swallowed her tears and opened the closet. She gathered the 3 pairs of iron shoes and the steel staff, packed a bag with food, water, and clothes, a hunting knife, and wandered past the old man's hut and into the woods. The night turned to day, and day turned to night. The iron shoes dug into her feet, bloodying them, bruising them. She would sleep, exhausted, under the trees, waking stiff and in pain, morning after morning. The youngest daughter of the wealthy merchant quickly missed her home. Her first home, with its soft shoes and softer pillows. But she needed to survive. So she needed to learn quickly to forget those comforts. She eventually taught herself to hunt, to pick the good berries from the bad, to pack her shoes with moss to avoid the worst of the pain. Eventually, after walking for so long and so far, she found a gray hair upon her head. The fourth daughter came across the house of the moon. Well, what do we have here? It's been a good while since I've seen a face like yours. Oh, never, maybe. Most of you have bobbleheads needing all that atmospheric pressure and oxygen and such. Well, come in, dear child. You must be tired, and look, your shoes are just about worn out. I'm just about to start the kettle. Have a seat, put up your feet, and tell me why you're here. The mouse's wife tells the moon about her journey to find her husband, and asks the mighty goddess if she might know where her husband was taken. The moon sighed, her face shadowed, and then light again. I cannot tell you where to find your husband, dear child. But you may go on, beyond my realm. Find the sun. He can tell you perhaps where to find your little mouse. But be careful. He is quite ill-tempered, that one. Oh, and go out back. Get yourself a chicken for your journey. Make sure to keep every one of the bones. The fourth daughter thanked the moon and threw away her first pair of worn-out iron shoes. She put on the second pair and went out to select a chicken from the coop out back. She felt lighter than she had in a long time. She may not have found her husband yet, but surely she was closer than she was before. Night turned to day, and day turned to night. She finally found herself at the doorstep of the sun. She knocked on the door, politely, and was met with the opposite.
Who in the flaming hell is getting me up on my goddamn chair this late in the afternoon?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm looking for my husband. You see, he's a mouse and cursed, and I was hoping...
A mouse? What kind of world-bending, beast-wrenching, rodent-kissing nonsense do you humans get up to back on your little blue planet, girlie? Forget it. You might as well come in here and tell me your whole story before you go passing out my doorstep and ain't up causing a whole other set of problems for me. Sit down. Take your ugly ass shoes off while you're at it. They look just about melted off by the looks of 'em.
The mouse's wife tells the sun about her journey to find her husband and asks the mighty god if he might know where her husband was taken. The sun groaned, his face leaning uncomfortably hot and close to her own face.
Now, I don't go messing about in other people's business. You're on your own tracking down your wayward, whiskered husband there, girlie. But maybe wind can give you better directions. You head on out of here. Go on. Get. Take a chicken with you, you scrawny little thing. And make sure you keep all them bones.
The fourth daughter thanked the sun and threw away her second pair of worn-out iron shoes. She put on the third and final pair and went out to select a chicken from the coop out back. She felt more energized, ready to continue her journey with another full belly and a pack that was rapidly filling with chicken bones. Night turned to day, and day turned to night. She finally found herself at the doorstep of the wind. The house was at the top of a mountain, and her travel-weathered clothes barely stood up against the cold. The iron shoes were freezing, potted with rust and dented from her many, many steps. The door opened, and the mouse's wife was practically sucked inside. Wind whipped around their kitchen, setting a kettle to boil, taking off the young woman's cloak, and turning on some music in rapid fashion.
Well, I'll be. Son finally got me a dinner guest. I rarely get visitors way out here. It's just a flick and a blink and you barely got any air about you. Time and air move fast around here is what I'm saying, and well, I'd like to say a lot more about Sun too, and Moon, but she's so flaky. Says she's gonna come to dinner, then ditching me the last minute. Son, well, you met him. He's certainly not one for visitors, let alone being a visitor. He just fills up the whole space. Wow, what kind of shoes are those? I'm all for weight training, great for the bones, but those look god-awful. Now me, I don't like being weighed down at all, but to each their own, and it looks like your own is something else, that's for sure. So tell me, sweet cheeks, what brings you here to my humble abode, and how can I help?
The mouse's wife tells the wind about her journey to find her husband, and asks the mighty goddess if they might know where her husband was taken. The wind flew up and gathered the young woman into their arms.
Well, didn't you come to the right place? I know exactly where your husband is. You see, there's a dark and creepy forest out back. Not metaphor, I promise. Come. Look and see. Very creepy. Now, these trees, they aren't your normal trees you find back home. No siree. No kind of oak or yew or willow or maple to find out there. These woods, no axe can cut through them. And believe me, many have tried. Axes, chainsaws, swords, even a flamethrower at one point. No good. What you're gonna need, my dear, is a steel backbone of some sort.
Oh, would a steel staff do?
Close enough. Go get your man, mouse, whatever, my good dude. And take a chicken. Keep the
bones. Yeah, I heard.
Don't shoot the messenger. Good luck storming the castle.
The fourth daughter thanked the wind and threw away her last pair of iron shoes. Barefoot and determined, she took up the chicken and the steel staff. Her hair was more gray than not by now, but she refused to turn back. The staff slowly began to wear down shorter and shorter as she used it to push back tree limbs and against rough, tripping roots. The forest, eventually, gave way to an open void. The Milky Way. And there, high above her head, at the top of a vast stream of stars, hovered a massive stone castle. There. He must be there. The mouse's wife opened her pack. She did not have a rope, nor wings, nor a steed, nor magic powers to lift her to her beloved. Her shoes and her staff had long worn away. Her belly was empty, the chickens long consumed. Instead, she only had an assortment of chicken bones. They would have to do. She bound the bones together with the black thread the old man had given her, and which had cursed her husband to mouse form and whisked him away to this far-off land. She built the ladder as she climbed it, higher and higher and higher. The stars swirled around her in a dizzying dance, but she kept her eyes on the castle, looming closer and closer and closer. Finally, she bound together the last bone and thread and reached up. Up. No, I can't be short. I kept all the bones. I did everything. I just need one more. Just one more and I can make it. There's got to be another. There's got to be another one. But there wasn't. There was nothing left in the bag except for the black thread and her hunting knife. She needed one more bone. Just one more. Her hands trembled. But she had gone too long, too far. She had learned too much about herself, about her life, about her world, about what she wanted. One little bone was not enough to abandon everything. So the mouse's wife, the fourth daughter of the wealthy merchant, lifted her hand, tied a piece of black thread against her skin, and cut off her little finger.
You're here.
Yeah, more or less. I'm here to rescue you.
Why?
I love you, you little idiot, or was that not obvious? So, what do I have to do now? Kiss you and you become human again?
Well, I don't know all the mechanics, but I think you need to get this black thread off my foot first, wait 3 days, and then we're all square.
Can I kiss you after the 3 days?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
The two of them traveled back home, hand in hand. Well, first mouse in pack, and yes, they did eventually kiss and consummate their marriage as humans. 2 humans. And they both lived happily ever after. The end. And this is where my tale spinning ends. Thank you for this. It was actually pretty nice, sitting by a fire telling old tales, like the old bards. Oh, it's been a while for you too? Maybe this kind of thing should happen more often. I know, right? The best stories are the old ones told in new ways. Huh? I mean, okay, yeah, maybe the mouse voice was a little much. And the sun. And the wind? Really? I loved that one. The kids love it. Fine. You're right. I did say that. And a storyteller always keeps their word. In a way. Whatever. Drinks on me. Everyone's a critic. The Mouse's Wife was written, created, produced, and performed by Lisette Alvarez. Thank you for listening.